Hey guys, I'm going to talk about something that I've been keeping up with recently, and that is current movie news about Sony Studios and Marvel Studios no longer working together to make Spider-Man movies. Now, some of you may not care about this at all and just think, David, why do you care? And I'm like, well, because Spider-Man's one of my favorite superheroes. And I was so excited that he was in the MCU and joining the Avengers. And I am a huge Spider-Man fan. I mean, I read a lot of his comics. I absolutely love the idea of Miles Morales. Spider-Man was one of the first comic books that I really started getting into, at least the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. And just to see him in the big screen, done in a more accurate way than what I felt had been done in the past, I really enjoyed it. We had somebody who had a balance of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Yes, there was a lot of emphasis on him being a sidekick to the other heroes, but it was still fun to have this incarnation of Spider-Man with other Marvel heroes. It just felt right. I mean, if you look at Marvel, way back before the movies, there were three big characters you pretty much saw that was the front of the merchandise, was one of the flagship characters, and that was Spider-Man alongside with Wolverine and the Hulk. And it was cool seeing one of the iconic superheroes, Spider-Man, with other superheroes that have become popular. I mean, think about it. 2008, 2009 when Iron Man came out? Iron Man was basically a B-list character who people didn't really know, being portrayed by Robert Downey Jr., who had gone through a lot of trouble. And now Iron Man's one of the biggest household superhero names ever, alongside with Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and even the Hulk. We've gotten from bad movies like Ang Lee's version and not so bad but not the greatest versions like Edward Norton's version, whoever directed that one too. But then we have Mark Ruffalo, who I think does a great job portraying both the Bruce Banner and then part of the Hulk aspect. I mean, the Hulk aspect CGI, but Bruce Banner Mark Ruffalo did a great job. So we had these characters who are now popular, who had to become popular because they didn't have the most notable ones of the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, or Spider-Man. So having Spider-Man in that universe was a really cool moment. I mean, just a little segue and kind of explain why I'm keeping up with this at the moment is because I remember when I first saw the trailer for Spider-Man Civil War, and it was so cool to see, first of all, Black Panther, who was one of the first black superheroes in the Marvel Universe, and then also to see Spider-Man, who was just an iconic superhero, one of the flagship Marvel superheroes in this movie. And it was fun because it felt like Spider-Man. Like, that airport fighting scene is awesome because it's just one of the few times it actually feels like a legitimate superhero movie. Not everyone's making quips. There's actual like reasons why they're fighting, and it's just a fun scene. And then after that, like, having Spider-Man Homecoming come out and actually having a really good villain portrayed. I mean, name good Spider-Man villains. Electro? I'm just kidding. No, there's actually some pretty good villains. But it was fun. Vulture being a fun villain who also frickin' Batman playing the Vulture. That was cool. And then even latest movies, like watching him in Endgame become just like, not Endgame, Infinity War. Watching him in Infinity War become the Avenger that he's wanted to be, to actually fight alongside a hero he looked up to, and actually to go to space. Like, I mean, yes, I know it's all fictional, but it's still cool. He's a teenage superhero in space. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man protecting the universe. At least trying, and he failed. But then in Endgame, you see him come back, and he's all excited, and then you see him in Far From Home, which if you haven't seen that yet, you should. It's been out for a while. Come on, guys. And I honestly think Far From Home was one of the better superhero Spider-Man movies we've had. It's right. I would say my Spider-Man movies are Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2, because Doc Ock in that one is fantastic. And then right after that, it's going to have to be Far From Home, because Jake Gyllenhaal is a great villain in that movie as Mysterio. And it's just, it ends on a great cliffhanger. And that's the thing. We end on a cliffhanger that potentially is not going to be followed through on. with this breakup. We have Sony and DC breaking up. Not Sony and DC. Wow, that was a mistake. Sony and Marvel Studios breaking up. And what happens with that breakup? So they broke up. Now, everyone, of course, blames Sony because it said Sony cut ties with Marvel Studios. That's the first thing that hit on the news. And, of course, it's easy to blame Sony because, looking at their track record, again, it's not been the best. They've got 2 good Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi. And Spider-Man 3 kind of killed the mood. After that, we have Amazing Spider-Man. I personally wasn't a huge fan of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. He was too old, he was too much of a cool kid, and while the consensus is Amazing Spider-Man 1 was better than Amazing Spider-Man 2, I thought Amazing Spider-Man 2 was better because we actually saw him actually got really beat down and have to pick himself back up. Still not the best, but Amazing Spider-Man series was really meh compared to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Then after that, we have what is now the collaboration of MCU and Sony introducing Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is the whole point of this, so I'll skip that. We have the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, which is another Sony film done about Spider-Man, which was really well done, and so glad it beat out any Disney movie for an Oscar. And also introduced one of my favorite iterations of Spider-Man, which is Miles Morales, the Afro-Hispanic American Spider-Man who had so much more character in the movie than he does in the actual comics. It was fantastic seeing that. But other than that, besides Spider-Verse and then Spider-Man 1 and 2, you really don't have a good track record with Sony making Spider-Man movies. So of course everyone blames Sony. Well, then we get into the detail of it all. Sony actually released a tweet shortly after the event, and it says, I'm going to read it, much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which will continue. And that's the tough thing. So it makes it sound like Marvel's the one who kind of like, well, you can't have Kevin Feige, and Sony was like, well, then we're out. Of course, when you look into more news articles, you see that they say that Marvel was asking for more money. Marvel, which is owned by the big mouse Disney, was saying, hey, give us more of a bigger cut. We want 50-50. You guys get half of the profit, we get half the profit. Currently, the deal was they get all the profit from merchandise. Disney Marvel does, and they get 5% of all the movie profits. Sony got all the movie profits. So here we go. Disney and Marvel got greedy, and Sony was like, well, no, we're not going to let you boss us around. It's our property. We own it, which is true. Sony does own the property of Spider-Man. So what they do? Cut ties off. Even Stan Lee's daughter comes out and says Marvel and Disney studio executives suck, basically is what she said. They mistreated her father, Stan Lee, and when he passed away, they didn't even send a new one. And she even is on to say, you can Google this, that nobody has treated her father worse than the Disney and Marvel studio executives. Which, I'll be completely honest with you, that's kind of blown my mind, because this is somebody who Stan Lee had to get a restraining order against a former business manager who stole his blood and he sold it and used it to autograph copies of comics. I mean, if you look at how the Marvel Studios and Disney Studios have treated Stan Lee, giving him a cameo, making a tribute to him when he passed away, I mean, they still honored him. They still wanted to emphasize this is the man who created all this, to a business manager who legitimately tried to cut him off from all his family after his wife died, who stole his blood. Can we talk about that? Stole his blood and then tried selling his blood and using his blood to autograph comics under Stan Lee's name. Who's the worst here? The people who probably cashed in on Stan Lee, which is true, really bad, or the person who legitimately abused their boss, who was sued for elder abuse? I mean, not to diss anyone, but being the cynic that I am, I feel like his daughter is pretty much like, oh, let me try to cash in on this as well. So, who do we blame? Do we blame Marvel Studios and Disney for being greedy, or do we blame Sony for being selfish and not wanting to partake? Because here's the truth: Spider-Man has never made $1 billion on a movie yet until recently, which is Spider-Man: Far From Home. It hit $1 billion pretty quick, not as quick as Avengers or any other live-action Disney film, but it hit it quick, and that's thanks to the MCU connection. Of course, we can also look at the flip side and say there's too much MCU connection in the Spider-Man universe. I mean, reading the comics, Spider-Man was his own superhero. He was a street-level superhero who created his own costume, created his own sweat fluid, and soon became climbing the ranks to become one of the top-known superheroes. So, who's at fault? I actually asked a poll, and it was interesting because it was pretty down-tied. A lot of people say Sony, but I think that's those people who don't understand the whole, they didn't read everything. Then a lot of people say Disney because, well, let's be honest, they are greedy. They own Fox Studios. They have a lot of control over entertainment and almost monopolize the whole film industry and entertainment industry as we know it. I mean, it's hard to pick a side. You can't blame Marvel and Disney for wanting more profit because it is a lot of their work. And Kevin Feige is honestly somebody who's orchestrated the whole MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the same time, though, they can't expect to take a lot of the money away from Sony's potentially biggest property. So we're stuck there. What do we do then? I mean, there's anything that could happen. They could still work out a deal that satisfies both parties. I mean, I do believe that's what's happening. I believe right now this is all publicity to keep us interested in the news. I mean, literally right before Sony cut connections with Disney, they said, hey, we're re-releasing Far From Home with a theatrical extended edition. They're drumming up drama for their movies already. This is just what happened with when Disney was talking with Fox about buying them out. Everyone was watching it, and it was like a back and forth decision, and other companies might buy Fox instead of Disney. In reality, in the end, it happened what we all knew was going to happen. Disney bought Fox. So they'll probably reach a deal. That's probably, I feel like, the most likely conclusion that'll happen, where they reach a conclusion where maybe they do 25-75, maybe they split both merchandising and films. Who knows? Maybe they'll say, hey, that we won't reach a deal. If they don't reach a deal, what happens next? What's the future for the MCU? What's the future for Tom Holland Spider-Man? They still got Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, but those can get canceled. Or they soft reboot him into the Venom universe, which, despite the fact that that wasn't the best movie of all time, it still made a lot of money. And Tom Holland is a top actor. So you throw Tom Hardy is a top actor. So you throw Tom Holland Spider-Man in there, and you get to see Venom and Spider-Man potentially even in a better relationship and a better portrayal than what Spider-Man 3 gave us, which was just very quick and hashed, and we don't know why the symbiote doesn't like Peter Parker, and we kind of know why Eric Foreman from the 70s show doesn't like Peter Parker, and it's just really weird. But this one, we actually have an established Tom Hardy version of I forgot his name. Venom. We'll just say Venom because I don't remember his real name. Eddie Brock, there it is. We have the established Tom Holland Eddie Brock, who is a hero but also an anti-hero. Then we have Peter Parker Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, which is a very young Spider-Man who wants to get the approval, but now he can't say anything MCU related. No more Tony Stark, no more Avengers, and which would be cool, because maybe then we won't see disgruntled people who've been hurt by the Avengers. I mean, that's what Homecoming was. We saw the Vulture, who was a disgruntled construction or whatever he was employee who got hurt by Tony Stark. Same with Far From Home. We saw not just Jake Gyllenhaal being a former Tony Stark employee, but we also see several other Stark employees in the movie, and we won't have that anymore, which will be nice. Maybe distance Spider-Man from Iron Man. But at the same time, we won't have that same MCU connection which gave the movie its strength. For the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were very much grooming Tom Holland Spider-Man to be the next Iron Man, to be the next face of this next generation of Marvel movies. Here's the thing, though. They've got other people they can use. They've got Doctor Strange, they've got Captain Marvel, they've got Black Panther, they even have Ant-Man, who Paul Rudd is a national treasure when it comes to comedic actors, and I'm so mad that right now they have not stated they are preparing to do a third Ant-Man and Wasp film, because I think that'd be really good. Anyways, hashtag Ant-Man 3. But seriously, Marvel's not going to get super hurt by this. If anything, they just kind of, ignore it. Like, they ignore the majority of the Incredible Hulk, and they ignore the fact that James Rhodes has changed from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle. And then they just roll along with it. I mean, they've got Disney, the big bucks. They can get whoever actor they want, they can get whoever director they want, and they're still going to make the money. Sony is going to get hurt in this. And Sony doesn't want to get hurt in this. They're still talking with Marvel about reaching a deal. So that's why I think they're going to reach a conclusion, and honestly, this is all just to drum up drama for the movie news, because right now, we don't see another Marvel movie for another year, honestly, maybe 2 years. So what do we have? We don't have anything going on right now. We've got the new Disney TV shows, which are coming out. But other than that, we won't see anything new from the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie-wise for a while. So maybe this is just to drum up some drama and maybe give Marvel a little bit more money, but again, who knows? Personally, I hope they reach a deal, because I really want to see Spider-Man still in the MCU. Tom Holland still got a long amount of years in him of portraying, I think, Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And while he still isn't the best portrayal of Spider-Man or the most accurate portrayal of Spider-Man at the moment, he's getting out there. He's growing there. They're making that. And personally, I want to see this right here turn to this right here. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see something that happens. Just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on all this. This is probably... Thank you for listening. If you listen this long, you're so awesome. If you know who the artist is for either of these, I think it's the same artist for both these drawings, but if you know who drew these, put their name in the comments so I can give them proper credit, because I found these through Reddit and I really do like them, and I suck at reverse image search. But what are your thoughts? Do you blame Marvel? Do you blame Sony for this? Do you not really care and just want to watch other videos about other things in life? I mean, who knows? But either way, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all impact the world, which I know you are definitely doing it in your way. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye.